son. Bit by bit, the older that we get, the faster it ticks. Time flies. Whoa, whoa, time flies.
All right, time flies. Thanks again, Dennis Beck, for that great intro song. Logan Fraker, our producer, is with us today, and I kind of needed some extra help today because I got a couple of guys here on the show that most of you probably know, and it may get a little wild in here today. Craig Hosmer, welcome to Marshfield Old School Times.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Great to be here.
And Judge Andy Hosmer, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We're really honored to have the Hosmer boys with us today. We were hoping to have some of the Hosmer girls. You know, our male to female ratio on this show is a little overbalanced. I was hoping you guys could help me out there, or they could, but they couldn't make it. But we are glad to have you. It's really a treat and an honor to have you with us today and hear a little bit more about the Hosmer family.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll start this thing out just by kind of a little bit of background about you guys growing up in Marshfield and what you're doing today. But before that, I do want to mention tonight is Reunion Fest night. It's going to be a really fun night. The weather still a little bit questionable, but we've got the gymnasium, and we'll move in there if it looks like it's going to rain. So we invite you to come down and enjoy a great time with old classmates, friends, family, whoever wants to come. We welcome everybody. 4 great bands that will be here starting at 5 o'clock. It should all wrap up about 11 p.m. We will end up with fireworks tonight. So come on down and enjoy the evening with us. It's the first fun event of the Independence Week season. So these guys, we go back quite a ways, don't we, Craig?
We do.
Craig and I graduated together in 1977, and Andy was about 5 years under or behind us. But that era was a great time to grow up in Marshfield. But I think there's always been a curiosity of how life evolved, or what was it like growing up on Hosmer Hill with lots of brothers and sisters in those days?
It was a little chaotic. And, as you know, we had 13 family and my mother and father, but we grew up on Hosmer Hill, which was a little unorthodox.
Yeah.
But it was all we knew, so
Yeah.
but it was fun. It was enjoyable. We had a lot of discussions back and forth. My dad was a little bit controversial at times, but it was good. And I think it was fun to grow up in Marshfield and fun to grow up.
You bet. And you all have always seemed to have a real tight cohesiveness amongst you. I mean, when I've been around some of you, your brothers and sisters, it's really kind of amazing. It's obviously a lot of influence from your mother and dad.
Yeah, I think Daddy sort of told us what to do, but Mother sort of showed us what to do.
Yeah.
She sort of taught you by example. I think that's a good example.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
She is very well respected in our community, and those that have never had the chance to get to know Mitzi Hosmer. She's worked at the courthouse for umpteen years, right?
Yeah.
Many years. And, just everyone knew of her. Of course, she was the mother of a lot of children, and all those children had friends, and a lot of ball games and a lot of band concerts and so forth. So she was well known and respected, and what an honor to have a mother like that.
Well, she had to deal with my father sometimes, which made it a little bit more difficult. But in August, she'll be 99. And
wow.
She loves Marshfield.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think, growing up, I don't remember ever having her say a bad thing about anybody. Yeah. And that's unusual. That was an example that you want from the mother. She was always positive about things, even when she wasn't doing positive things.
Sure.
She was a great example.
That's awesome. Really
Still living up on the hill.
Still lives on the hill. Amazing.
Almost. Yeah.
And by herself a lot still, right?
Uh-huh.
That's what I understood.
We all
amazing.
take turns and spend the night with her.
That is great. That is great.
Yeah.
And you guys, there were 13 of you, but there has been one sibling that's passed.
Our oldest brother, Kent, died in 1999.
Okay.
But, he was living up in Columbia, Florida, towards Columbia at the time.
Sure.
He was graduate 1966.
Marshfield.
Ann was 66. Kent would have been 67.
Why don't you mention to all of your brothers and sisters? I wanted to do that. Let's just go ahead and do that now. Kind of maybe when they graduated or something, if you can remember.
So I can do the births.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Anne was born in 48,
Uh-huh.
so she would have graduated in 66. Kent, I think, was 67, graduated. Stephen graduated in 69, I think. Jane, 70 or 71.
Joe, I know, was 72.
Joe was 72. Sister Mary was 74.
I think so.
Her 50th is tonight, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
74. Craig was 77. Ellen was 79.
I think
Bob
it
was 80. I was 82. Sister Sarah, she was Abby when she graduated. She was 84.
Okay.
Then Julie was 86. John David was 87. So
87.
we went from 66 to 87.
Yeah.
Graduates.
I
Yeah.
think you only got one wrong. I think Ellen was 78 when she graduated.
Oh, that's right.
1 year behind
70.
us.
That was Ward Lawson.
Now, the majority of the kids live fairly close, or not necessarily.
There's 4 or 5 of us that live in Springfield, but Ann and Mary and Ellen all live up by Columbia. That's Stephen, John David, New York City.
Okay. Okay.
And I've got a sister that lives in the state of Nevada.
Okay.
And
Sarah
Sister
lives in
in
Chicago.
Okay.
Julie lives in Olympia, Washington.
Right.
we're spread out.
Yeah. Do you ever get a chance to get all together?
Yeah, we used to a little bit more when we were younger, but
Yeah.
I get together for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Uh-huh.
But, it's a little harder,
A little harder.
now, but people come back.
There's still,
Yeah.
with grandkids, there's 30 to 40 at any Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah, and of course, we put a picture on the introduction on Facebook. You probably saw one of the pictures that you provided me, and there was probably 30 or so there, and obviously not all
Yeah.
of the siblings. It's just really interesting. It's
I think there's about 35 first cousins.
really,
My daughters
yeah,
and son
yeah,
have about 35 first
sure,
cousins.
sure.
Which was sort of unique because, my dad was an only child. My mother only had a twin brother. So
Really?
they both came from a relatively small.
Yeah,
family.
that
So
is interesting.
Daddy always says he's trying to repopulate Webster County with immigrants. But he lost. He lost that attempt.
Yeah,
Well, he also
you
grew
did
up.
okay for a while. Well, they all moved away.
And then he also says he was trying to, what he said, he was trying to lose himself in a crowd.
And they also, his house was just across the
That's right.
street.
That's right.
And then in 61 or 62, they actually moved it.
Cut it in half and moved.
And I think Mary remembers watching it from this building.
Yeah.
Watching it because
Yeah.
it was a spectacle.
And just for those of you that was the lot right across the building here, in front of, well, where Dorn Pump Shop or Rep Local Pump Shop is there. It was that lot. And then there was a wall, a rock wall around it. And of course, there's all those old stories from our parents' days of
Most
your
of it probably true.
granddad kind of hollering at the kids, whether it was in fun or not. But I'm sure it was in
Putting
fun.
oil on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heard
Interesting.
that.
But now, just for a minute, let's talk just a little bit about your dad's family, because the Hosmer family was pretty influential in Webster County back in the earlier days, like say the beginning of the 20th century. Tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about that.
and I don't know if I know the whole history, but they had a farm out towards
We know it as Walnut Springs
Yeah,
Farm, and I
Walnut
think it's
Springs.
even changed names again. But that's
Hosmer Dairy.
a lot of Hosmer Dairy, yeah.
and they had like 600-800 acres. And I think it was one of the first big dairies west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
And they sold dairy products all over the
Yeah.
area. But they sold that probably in the 1950s or 60s. A lot of people worked out there. I think Edwin Humble
Yeah.
worked out the old Marshfield or at the old House Dairy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I had never heard that. Well, so would that have been your dad's grandfather or his or
It
great
was, yeah,
grandfather?
his grandfather, I believe,
Yeah.
started it.
Edmund Hosmer came from Concord, Massachusetts
Okay.
originally, and then by way of Michigan, came down 1850.
Something like
Okay.
And then his son John Elston, yeah,
Yeah.
and then
our dad.
and dad.
Okay.
So
Because John Elston was your grandfather that lived across the street that used to have the office on the square
Right.
that I've heard my dad talk about,
Right.
even during the Depression when there wasn't a lot of money, but your grandfather had a little, I think, because of the
Yeah.
farm and whatever. And I think, maybe even loan money to people like my grandfather maybe borrowed a little from him one time, because he was that kind of a person. He would help people out.
And they had the insurance agency.
Had insurance
Hartford,
too. Mhm.
I believe
Yeah,
it was Hartford.
yeah,
Hosmer,
yeah.
Hosmer Insurance company.
Sure.
But they all went, Bess, I think, graduated from Marshfield schools. I think John Elston.
John Elston was with graduation.
Sure. Probably in the 20s maybe. Or
And then
something.
Beth was a Cantrell, so we're
Teens.
related to all the.
Oh, she
Cantrells.
was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We're related to most of the Cantrells. We
Right.
claim most of them.
Yeah. Well,
They
there's
would
a lot
say
of
one
people.
blue-eyed cantles versus the brown-eyed cantles.
Actually, you are blue-eyed, aren't you?
We don't know if those are the good Cantrells or the.
Of course, our dad was always the best one-eyed lawyer in Webster County. So
He was. Yeah, that's true. And maybe the worst too.
he never said it that way. He always said it's the best.
Oh, yeah. I certainly remember your dad. I can tell you a quick story about your dad when Gene Fraker got elected sheriff, 1968, and your dad was the prosecutor. And he was one of the first ones. Of course, they were different parties, but he was one of the first ones that called Gene up and said, Fraker, said, congratulations, said, Mitzi and I want to invite you and Bert out for supper. And they went out and had a nice dinner and I think experienced life on Hosmer Hill for an hour or two. And I've heard Uncle Gene talk about that and always but they each had a lot of respect for each other. I think always were friends after that.
My mother loved Gene Fraker.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
really did. She
I know
thought
she
he was a great sheriff.
Yeah.
And he was one of those people that, she said he stopped or had a lot of times when he could have been a typical sheriff, been a little bit rougher with people and carry a gun, and he would,
Yeah.
I think he was always the mentality that he could deal with people.
Common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah.
And
Well,
she loved him.
our families have been friends a long time.
She's
and
voted
still
for.
are.
She's voted for a few fakers.
That's right. That's right. I know. And she told me that too. I was honored. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't all 13 of your children go to college?
Uh-huh.
And I'm assuming graduated and or nearly or whatever.
I think John David maybe is still a semester 12.
But
All
what an
graduated.
amazing feat, and for your folks to do that and then go on and, as far as I know, you've all had very successful careers. It's amazing. I mean, it is. It's just amazing feat.
Well, a lot of that was mother. I think she didn't ever force you to do anything, but she always expected you to do things. And
Right.
She understood that public education is one of those few things that makes you better, and that's why I think it's so important.
And I think also just once Ann went to college, I think I just grew up expecting to go to college. And not only expecting to go to college, but expecting to go to Missouri. And we all went to.
Yeah.
I don't think I looked at any other school. I don't think anybody else did.
Are you
No.
two the only two lawyers, or is there
No, it's three others.
Five.
Joe,
5 lawyers?
Joe, Mary.
Didn't realize that.
Julie are all lawyers.
Didn't realize that. That is amazing. Really is.
Yeah, 5 lawyers, Ann's a physician,
Uh-huh.
Sarah's a nurse, Bob's city planner,
Yeah.
Jane was a teacher,
Stephen, teacher.
Steven's a teacher.
Kent was in construction.
Yeah.
Now, I've always heard that some of you, maybe the older ones, were in the Peace, did they help in the Peace Corps? How many of those?
So
Ann was in the Peace Corps.
Ann was
Andy in
in
the Peace Corps.
Columbia in
Uh-huh.
1974. She and Stephen were in the Peace Corps the same 2 years. He
Yeah.
was in Iran
Really?
before the Ayatollah
Mhm.
revolution,
Shaw had it.
and she was in Colombia. And then Bob was in the Fiji Islands in maybe 86
Oh,
to
really?
88.
Yeah.
And then I went to Romania and was there for 2 years in 96 to 98.
Wow.
Yeah. So 4 of us.
I
Yeah.
bet that was interesting.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a fascinating experience. Really enjoyed it.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've always thought that, it would be interesting if we had some kind of a civil service program that, obviously we don't want all of our children to serve the military automatically, but you know, if there was some options out there that would, and then, you know, let them have some similarity to GI Bill or whatever. I mean, in order to help fund their education or whatever.
Well, just traveling overseas, it's
Yeah.
such a
Yeah,
mind-opening experience.
Sure
No matter
it is.
what you do with it, it's just kind of makes you a different person.
sure.
It's-
Sure. Well, tell me a little bit about, well, let's talk about your mom. Talk about your dad's family. So your mother, tell us about her.
She grew up in Odessa, which was about
Odessa,
30
Missouri.
Odessa, Missouri, about
Okay.
30 miles, I guess,
East of Kansas
City.
Right.
And she graduated from Odessa schools and then worked in Kansas City for a while, and then went to the University of Missouri, and that's where she met my dad.
I see.
So they met there.
They double dated with
Mort Walker.
Mort Walker and his,
Really?
The old-
turned out to
the
be his
cartoonist.
Yeah.
first wife
Yeah.
at the shack. Mort Walker
Is that right?
and his girlfriend at the time, and my dad and our mom.
Really?
She remembers
Did he go to
double dating.
journalism school there at MSU or
No,
MU?
no, he was undergrad, and then he went to law school.
Oh, I see.
Oh, you mean Mort?
Yeah, more.
Oh,
No, I meant more.
Oh, yeah.
I just
Mort
was
in
curious
J-
how,
I
what he
believe
was,
in
yeah,
J school.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Daddy also went to jury with Bob Barker.
Oh, he did?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he went to jury undergraduate, and I think went into the military, and then in 1940s.
He was one of those law schools that they left for 2 or 3 years to go to the military during
Sure.
World War II, and then came back. So
Right. Is that where his lost an eye?
No, he lost his eye
that's what he told
as a
you.
kid.
Did you
We
know
don't have- You don't have to set the record straight
Yeah, a
here,
lot of-
Judge.
a lot of stories.
You're not a judge here. You can make something up if you want to.
A German sharpshooter. No, I think he was walking a dog. The story is, and he fell down the stairs at this house and hit a chair that was upturned. On the
Really?
leg of a chair,
Seriously?
and put his eye. Didn't put it out, but
Yeah,
guess.
sure.
Damage
Damage, yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But he had a little bit more flamboyant stories. He would tell us to make it a little bit more dramatic.
I bet it was interesting. So, you know, without getting too deep or into the weeds, what was it like, you know, with that many children and like, how many restrooms did you have? You know, I mean, was it hard to
Well, here-
bedrooms? Did y'all? I mean, I'm
here's
sure
the
you
thing
shared
that
rooms. Yeah.
I'm still fascinated by. So
Yeah.
I was the 10th child.
Yeah.
When I was,
Well, if you're fascinated, we're going to be real fascinated.
well, I've asked my mom this question. She's not really answered the question. So when I was born in 1964. My sister was born in, so 64. That was before the other house had been brought up or
Right.
utilized.
Right.
So when I was born, there would have been 10 children, my mom and dad, and there were 3 bedrooms. So their bedroom, mom and dad's bedroom, and then 2 bedrooms for the kids with single beds, 2 single beds
In each one.
in each one,
Really?
1 bathroom with tub, no shower, and I tried to remember exactly, because I remember my first memory is sleeping between Craig and Bob in a
Yeah.
single bed. I
Sure.
was in the middle.
Yeah.
And then as you got older, you got to go to the side, toward the wall.
and,
maybe you made it.
the new baby.
And then when you got older, you got to at least be on the outside. So, yeah, it was
do you think that
it was crazy.
that really did help mold and influence you with the relationship you have with all your siblings and maybe I don't know, just the perspective that you all have, because you all appear to have kind of a similar perspective on life and, you know, the humility of not having your own bedroom and TV, like, you know, I guess I probably did when I was a kid.
I think that's true. I think
I'm just
it
curious.
forces you.
Yeah.
It forces you to understand compromise. It forces you to understand other people's,
Right.
position.
Right.
Forces you to fight.
Yeah.
Well, you
We had
understand.
our
That,
share of fights.
well, but you understand that you can fight and then you can get back from it. And,
Right.
So I think it really molds kind of who you are.
I would say I could see that, but the other thing is even though, like, for example, we're not necessarily politically on the same side of things, but you guys aren't flamethrowers. You know, you're not out there, I don't know, marching, protesting, or, you know, saying my way's the only way. And, you know, you and I've had discussions, and I kind of feel like I'm that way, but yet so many people that are politically different. I mean, there's almost a hatred there. I mean, we see that now today in both the federal level and now even in the state level, which when you served, I suspect that you didn't see as much
No,
of that.
you didn't.
I didn't even at the beginning of my term, my tenure in 2011. But over the last 12 years, as social media and all the new technology that we have, instant, news opinion shows and all that stuff. I mean, it's gotten more volatile and more divisive, and I hate it, quite frankly.
Well, I think people are in echo chambers where
Yeah.
whatever they think is shot back to both sides.
Yeah.
And they're not talking to people that have
Right.
different opinions
And you don't argue, I mean, you argue with people with animosity rather than just trying to really figure out where they are. And that's one of the things I think in our family, at least, we argued a lot. Daddy used to almost make us argue. At the dinner table, he'd say, "What'd you learn today at school?" And
Yeah.
there'd be arguments back and forth on,
Yeah.
whatever topic it was. But it made you understand that argument isn't necessarily, just because I argue with you doesn't mean I dislike you.
Right,
I
right.
should be rude to you or mean to you. It's just, I'm trying to figure out where you are. And I think a lot of people think when you argue anymore that it has to be personal.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about the legislature, and I'm sure you had the same experience, is that dialogue you have when it's true dialogue instead of, I would listen to the Republican legislators and I would have my thoughts, and you actually make better legislation, better policy when you listen. Because I think both parties want to get to the same spot. They have different goals on
How to get there.
And if you don't listen, you miss that opportunity to do something.
Sure. I always think back to our founding fathers and, when they were drafting the Constitution. I think it took 2 years or something like that. And my goodness, all kinds of ideas and thoughts of how it should be done. But you know what? Eventually enough compromise was had on all sides. They got a document that we all would agree today is maybe the most perfect, governmental organizational document that's ever been drafted. How did they do that when they all had, different? Yeah, absolutely. And so we should be, when I hear even some of my former colleagues or people from my side of them talk about patriots of this and that, we don't really know what patriots are. Those guys were patriots because they learned how to, conquer the art of compromise, for lack of better words. Tell us just a little bit about your personal lives, your spouses, your children, kind of what you guys have been up to.
Well, I'm married to Joanne. My wife's a nurse. We've got 3 boys. One's a junior in college at University of Missouri. One's in law school at University of Illinois. And one is working in Springfield. And I've lived in Springfield, I guess, since the mid-'80s. I've served in the state legislature for 12 years. And now I'm in city council in Springfield. So moving down the political chain. I'll be a dog catcher in the city of Springfield.
Me too, look at me. I'm hauling Amish. So your boys came along a little bit later in your life.
Well, I didn't.
Like mine.
I made a mistake and didn't marry Joanne sooner than I should. But I got married a little bit later.
Yeah.
So.
How about you, Andy?
So I graduated in '82, then University of Missouri, New York University Law School, and then from law school I worked in Tampa, Florida for a couple of years at a firm. Came back here as a public defender for a couple of years. Went to New York City, worked in a firm there for a couple of years. Went to the Peace Corps for a couple of years, and then came back to Springfield and worked in civil practice and as a prosecutor with the Attorney General's office. And then was appointed 10 years ago now by Governor Nixon to be an associate circuit judge in Greene County. And I've had the juvenile division that entire time. So all the abuse and neglect docket, delinquency docket, all the adoption docket.
Yeah.
I've done that for the last 10 years.
Wow.
And then, so I'm married. My wife, Kay, is a political organizer. We have 3 daughters, 22, Isabel's 22. Annie is 19 and Callie's 17. And a son, Gus, who's 7.
7.
Yeah, so, and living.
He topped us out there.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to hire somebody to play baseball.
Yes.
with us.
I've heard lots of your grandson is very cute. Too much,
Ah,
too much.
it keeps us young. Though.
There you go. There you
I
go.
was 45 when Logan was born, so I understand.
You were a youngster compared to.
Well, that's true. I was. That's right.
53, so.
You guys have always been extremely supportive of Marshfield, the Marshfield community, and I know both have supported the Cherry Blossom Festival or received awards from there, and you've came and spoke to Rotary in the past, and I mean, what is it about Marshfield? They're obviously with your occupational successes, both of you. Andy, in your case, been around the world a couple of times, worked different occupations. What is it that just continue? I mean, I'm sure your mom, but still, there's some attraction, isn't there, to growing up in a small town and still having that connection?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's kind of a magnetic kind of attraction to where you're from. So, and I think we had a good childhood, and I enjoyed growing up in Marshfield, enjoyed the friends, enjoyed school, and I've always enjoyed kind of being close. So, yeah, I mean, just a friendly town, friendly people, and like being close.
What are some of your best favorite memories growing up in Marshfield beyond, having to take turns using the restroom at your home or whatever?
Well, yeah, I think just being in a community where you know everybody. I mean, I remember go out and somebody say, "You're a Hosmer, aren't you?" Yeah. Sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. But
I think it's always good.
Everybody knowing everybody,
Yeah.
and I think people being interested in what you're doing, you being interested in what they're doing. It seems like that's sort of missing today. It seems like it's sort of nostalgic, but I think it is important. That sense of community, people knowing other people.
I think also just I remember when my mom was at the courthouse, I would go after school sometimes up to her office and say, "Hey, I need a couple of dollars for whatever." She said, "Well, my purse is in the car." Okay. I go down to the courthouse. She'd park right there in the courthouse. Her windows were down because it was sunny.
Yeah.
Her purse was in the middle of her seat. Keys were in the ignition. And that was always that way.
Yeah.
And I would open her purse and take the money out and then go on my way. She'd go down and take the car to Noel Thomas and say, "Can you check and see if something needs to be," and she'd leave a blank check. And he would fill out the check. She'd never ask how much it was going to be. He kind of knew what the situation, so that kind of trust that you had, she always had, and was almost always rewarded with that trust.
Well, and also, I think there was people like you mentioned Noel Thomas. I remember Noel Thomas not charging her, because after my dad died, I was, I guess, 17 or 18. I had 6 brothers and sisters, both younger than me, but she would take her car out to Noel Thomas, and he wouldn't charge her to fix her car, or I had to borrow money to college, and I went to John Bill Ritter. John Bill, I asked him about $1,000.
Sure.
Your dad loaned money to mother.
Yeah.
And those are the type of things, I know the regulations, there are rules now that make it a little bit harder to do that, but they loaned me money without any type of equity or any type of assets at all, just because I needed to go to college. And I wouldn't have gone to college, probably law school if I hadn't done it. Sure. Same thing with Emma Holmes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I remember Emma would come up and fix the heater.
In your house.
My dad's design of that house was probably not smart.
Well, yeah, the gang of two together.
But the heater was below ground and filled up with water. But I remember Emma getting up there fixing the heater and not charging mom. And So there's just a lot of good,
Right,
a lot
right.
of good people that did a lot of good things.
Sure, sure.
And mother would do things for other people. She'd help people on their issues with the courthouse. Her daddy would help people, and,
Yeah.
and they give us a little car instead of paying the legal fees, or give us goats.
Mhm.
I remember one time, I'll tell you one story.
Yeah.
Guy paid daddy with a truckload of goats. So they dropped off the goats. The goats went to the field, jumped over the fences. We never saw them again.
Oh
They were literally on our property 15 minutes, but that was daddy's feet.
So those are the goats we got called for weeks saying, hey, are these your goats?
They're
And they were
chasing our
eating them.
cows.
You couldn't very well call the guy and tell him, "Hey, your goats ran away. I still need my bill paid." He pretty much
No,
had to.
the
Yeah,
bill was
the bill
paid.
was paid.
The
That's
goats
funny.
were gone, but the bill was paid.
That's fun. Well, I totally understand and agree with you. Marshfield is a special place,
It
and
was.
we've had lots of guests on, and that common theme is there amongst anybody that's been around or lived here, or generations that lived here from their families. We are fortunate. It's just a special place. We're having a reunion fest tonight. There'll be, I mean, the weather doesn't keep people from coming out. There could be 350 to 400 people here, and yeah, some are here to listen to the bands, and we all want to enjoy sitting back and relaxing. But predominantly, they're here to see old friends and renew old acquaintances, and it's really special. We kind of take it for granted sometimes, but the friendships that that we have, or Craig, you and I growing up together, just the times that you've helped me with a legal issue or something like that. It means a lot, and not everyone experiences that.
You didn't pay me in goats, though.
Well, no, that's true.
The other thing I think is important for Marshfield was the school. In
Yes.
the community, we have
Yeah.
one school. I think it's so important because it forces all those families to be together. You have to work together. You're in school together. You know everybody. In Springfield, one of the things, there's so many different schools that people can live their whole life in Springfield and never know the other. And I know there's size.
I think that's true. I mean, I can think of, I graduated with maybe 150. And I went through my yearbook, and I can remember almost when everybody came to school.
Yeah.
And almost the vast majority were here from kindergarten.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this crazy thing.
It
in this
is
day
how the
and age.
memory works.
Well, yeah, but it's just the fact that most people came and stayed.
State, yeah.
And went through the whole thing, and so
Remember when the Oakland kids came over, like 7th grade or whatever it was.
So we went to school 13 years to get married.
Yeah.
I
Actually, I missed kindergarten. We've had that discussion before.
knew that's where you're so.
I'm
Behind.
behind. I'm behind. Yeah, I'm special, but we lived in Lebanon for about 3 years when my dad
guess I
was
didn't
with
know that.
Kraft. Yeah, and so back then kindergarten wasn't really part of the public school system. It was kind of a quasi-private deal, and you didn't have to go. And so I went in Lebanon. Actually, Pat Bosch and I went to kindergarten together. They lived out somewhere. Yeah, they lived somewhere out Conway or something, and so.
And
Her-
come the same year.
First
grade.
they moved to first grade, and so she's the only classmate that I actually went 13 years with. The first year at kindergarten in Lebanon, and then started first grade at Marshfield. But her folks lived at Conway or somewhere that direction, and they could have went either way, and she went down there. But yeah, there is a bond. There's a bond there that I don't think will ever go away.
Yeah.
My dad in his later years, they got together, his classmates, class of 48, they got together monthly. I mean, they got together more frequently than they ever did in those later years. It's that magnetism that you mentioned was really strong. Your time in the legislature, Craig, since we have that common interest or common denominator between us, what we've touched upon it, but I know you got real close with Governor Nixon. You were good friends with him. Good guy. Again, a more moderate type person in his political viewpoints. What have you seen change in your 30 years since you were in the legislature to now that, good or bad? What do you think? Where do you think we're headed? it's a nation, and I don't get out in the weeds, but what's your thoughts on that? You're on the city council, you've been on there for how long now?
12 years.
Yeah, quite a while, so you're seeing things there too. Any comments or thoughts about that?
I think hyper partisan, partisan atmosphere is bad. Democrat, bad.
Right.
I think it really needs to be more people, needs to be statesmen.
Yeah.
Doing what's right for the country rather than what's right for the city or the county or the state, rather than what's politically correct. And I think sometimes, we don't have one source of information, what's right and wrong, or what's true and false. And, we get so much noise out there from all kinds of different, that you don't have a Walter Cronkite anymore that can tell you that's the way it was, this is the way it is,
Right.
this is what truth is. So I think people, say anything, and there's somebody that's going to back them up, and that looks legitimate. And that's sometimes unfortunate. Because I think most people, Democrat or Republican, if you sit down and talk to them, they really want the same things. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah.
The goal is the same.
Right.
It's the way you get there,
Right.
and whether you're going to get there.
Sure. But, and Andy, you would, as an attorney, you're a lawyer, you would chime in as well. But doesn't it seem like more and more it's not what is right, it's what's legal? In other words, what is always legal is not always really the right thing. It may be legal, but does it make it right? And it seems like, is that something that we're losing with each generation? And maybe we're changing the law some too, but I mean, I don't know. When I was growing up, the little things that I learned, and you probably did too with the mother that you had, before I was in kindergarten, the little things is what really made a big difference in how we become as a person. Well, son, if you have to think about whether you ought to go with that person, maybe you shouldn't, or just those little memes or little statements that they would make, but now today it's more like, well, I mean, I can get by with that because it's legal, but it doesn't make it right.
I can remember my mom always saying, if you can't say something nice about somebody, don't say anything at all.
Perfect.
And
Perfect example.
She lived that.
I know,
Yeah.
she did.
Right,
I
right.
try to
Right.
do that sometimes.
My mother did too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really is those
Yeah.
little lessons that
Yeah.
You teach a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
Should be lessons that everybody should
Right.
relearn again, because sometimes, and I think social media is one of the bad things.
It's got to be social media.
People will say something online that they would never say to your face or my face, or I would, and I think that's sort of been destructive to the dialogue that we have.
And the way we make fun of people, and the way we make fun of, politicians, or, I see really good Christian evangelical people that I've known all my life, and they get on here and they'll blast Donald Trump, or they'll blast Joe Biden, or whatever it is, call them names and make fun of them. And again, it's not illegal, doesn't make it right.
No, I agree.
And it would make your mom mad, it would make my mom mad, and that's a generation I think we should be emulating rather than.
Right. How do we fix that, guys? Judge, how do we fix that? You have to see things that we don't see. I mean, you have to have people come before you that you want to go.
Yeah, no,
I could only have you for a month. I could teach you some things,
well, yeah, I think part of it is, I tell parents all the time, so I do a lot of dependency, use neglect. I tell parents all the time, it's not what you tell your kids, it's what you show. And they're going to mimic your actions, not your words. So you can say, be nice or be respectful, don't hit.
Right.
But if you're not showing them that, so I think that it becomes really important. But I do think there's something about, that's why I talked about travel. When you travel overseas in a different culture, you'll learn things about yourself and you learn things about your country. So one of the things I've traveled in, predominantly Muslim countries, and the kindnesses I was shown,
Really,
overwhelming.
really.
The people you meet one-on-one, you think, my Lord, the nicest people you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah.
And so, or, Eastern Europe, it's so all these kind of stereotypes of who this person is, who
Yeah.
that person is, when you actually meet that person face to face, your preconception is going to change, good or bad. It
Right.
could be better or worse, but it's going to change. And so I think that's a key thing, just talking to people that are not like you. I think the other thing that's really, really important in this day and age is that, and I've been reading a lot of this, and I'd like to present this sometime to judges, is this concept that our brains are not really very good at being right all the time. That our brains take shortcuts all the time, and we make assumptions all the time. And that kind of humility to say, I might be wrong about every one of my opinions, but I could be wrong. And we don't get that now. We get, of course I'm right, and you're wrong.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying,
Yeah.
I'm saying this, but I know in the
Yeah.
back of my head, I may be dead wrong, because our brains just weren't designed to be rational, rational
Yeah.
thinkers. We're
Yeah.
not. We jump to conclusions because, through evolution, that's the way we survive.
Sure.
We made a quick decision about whether that person was in our
Yeah.
tribe or not,
Yeah.
or whether that animal is dangerous or not. And, through evolution, that thing was honed. And so we still do that. We jump to
Sure.
things all the time, and sometimes it works for us, but sometimes it really gives us a blind spot, and we're too confident for our own goods. And I think that kind of is problematic.
Sure. So is it fair to say that we're just still constantly always learning?
We should be.
And just as we learn and we know things differently, much differently, good or bad, than our fathers or our parents. They did more than their grandparents all the way back. So, I was having a discussion this morning with a lady, and actually it was over the fun run. And by the way, fun run this morning, but Bill Walker's fun run, great fundraiser for the Marshfield Public School Foundation. So I've got my T-shirt on.
Where'd you run?
Well, I didn't. I was a worker. I'd have walked. But it was a great time, and it's a good fundraiser for the foundation. But we were having this discussion, and she said, and she and I probably align politically pretty well, but she said, I'm probably not as conservative as I used to be in my older age. I'm probably more interested in hearing what others have to say, other way of thinking. And I'll admit I'm the same way. I mean, I feel like all those things that you're going to do when you graduate, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and I believe this, I believe, as time goes on, you learn. It's all about learning. And so.
And being inquisitive.
Yeah.
Thinking that maybe this isn't right.
Right.
This isn't
Right.
Being, trying to figure something out for yourself.
Sure.
Rather than being told.
Sure. And there's really no reason to fall on your sword for everything that we learn, okay, comes to your wife and your kids, you're going to fall on your sword for them. But there's other things. It's like, we'll listen to the other side of the issue. But I think I saw a picture one time. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, with President Kennedy holding a Hosmer.
Truman.
Okay.
Holding this one.
Okay.
In
That was you?
1959.
Okay.
Daddy went to visit President Truman at Lamar. I think Lamar, there was some
farm.
dedication of the farm.
Okay.
And he had Harry Truman baptized me as a Democrat. So I had no choice, Lyndall.
Why didn't you send me that picture to put on Facebook? I remember seeing it one time.
Yeah, that was, I think, 1950.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, before that, 1952, our mother was the youngest delegate to the Democratic National Convention.
Really?
1952, and they nominated Adlai Stevenson. And I think that was an open convention, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
So that was.
And
they
in
made
1961 or 62, Daddy was appointed by John F. Kennedy to some position in Guam.
Public defender.
Oh, really?
defender of
Okay.
Guam.
Okay.
And quickly fired by John F. Kennedy.
But that's when he tried to get the right to jury trial to Guam, because it was a protectorate then. and he spoke at the United Nations in 1963 or
He was the
64.
first American to speak against U.S. policy at the United Nations. And he was, the only way he got to speak at the United Nations is because he was recognized by the Soviet Union. Because
But
they knew
your
he was gonna say
Really?
something bad about U.S. policy, and the U.S. did not want him speaking. But the Soviets said, "What the heck? If he's going to say something bad about the U.S."
Then he got fired after that.
I think
I think he'd already
got.
been.
Oh, okay.
But what he was asking for was that the people of Guam should have the right to a church,
Sure. Yeah.
which ultimately they got.
They got, yeah.
He was probably right, but
Yeah.
he showed how much hillbillies we were. He camped out in Central Park in New York City
Before he spoke.
before he spoke. So he's probably
With
the only
about
person.
four of the kids.
4 or 5 of the
And
kids.
your mother too.
I don't know if mother went. I'm not sure, but she
So the kids would all been teenagers or something.
Probably.
Young,
Yeah.
junior high age.
he was never
Wow.
he was never a great preparer. So he would just take off and probably.
You know,
I've never heard that. That's a good
He
story.
was- he
That's a
was-
great story.
He was
Yeah,
an
the,
interesting guy.
International Herald Tribune had a story
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
62.
Yeah.
So
He
would you agree that JFK would be a much more moderate?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Today.
Yeah.
Today he would be a moderate.
yeah.
Just like Ronald Reagan would be a moderate.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
But
Probably-
you tell my conservative colleagues that use that invoke his name all the time. I mean, you look at we won't even get at all the topics that he would,
I mean,
stem
really,
cell research or
when you look at what JFK and Ronald Reagan were, they'd probably be in the same party today. Now, whether it be Democrat or Republican,
Right,
I don't know,
right.
independent.
and actually Nixon and JFK were really a lot much closer than what we would see today.
Yeah, I mean,
And they ran against each other. But,
no,
in those days, Goldwater comes in and kind of changes things, changes the scene back then. But interesting. Guys, you're not going to believe this. We got 8 minutes left. See how fast it goes? Isn't it fun?
it's not fun. It's sort of nerve wracking, but
No, I didn't. You might have been at first, but it's a conversation. What's in the future for the Hosmer boys?
retirement.
Yeah, I hear you.
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll probably stay on city council until I get.
It seems like things are going fairly well. You don't hear a lot of controversy
think-
right now like you have in the past.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think things are going.
yeah, Mayor
relatively
McClure
well.
seems to be
Good guy.
a good fella. And of course, I'm good friends with former councilman Fischel, Craig Fischel
Craig
was
was great. I like
a good man. And
Craig and I got
you got some good folks up. I know Phil. It's Phyllis Ferguson still.
No, she's
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I know Phyllis. Anyway, yeah, it's always good to. I tell the Marshfield mayor and Sam, administrator, they've kind of got a pretty cohesive board now, and things are going pretty well. They're working with people. I think we're finally getting some housing in over here off Banning.
I
Buffalo
think,
Road.
maybe city councils are more, are they're obviously nonpartisan, a lot of
Yeah,
them are
yeah.
nonpartisan. I think sometimes.
Well, it ought to be.
when you care about an idea, whether it's a Democrat idea or a Republican idea,
Right.
they should just be good ideas.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a good thing about city councils is that they don't deal with Democrat or Republican. And sometimes
Right.
good ideas, whether they're from Republican or Democrat, get a chance to go forward
Absolutely.
instead of being shut off because they're.
Well, and it's interesting. A lot of my extremely conservative friends that I served with, when it comes to the local issues, when it comes to spending money in their hometowns, they were the first to want to get sewer money or road money or whatever, street money.
Yeah.
But you talk corporately about it statewide. Oh no, we don't want any kind of a tax increase. We can't spend any money. Let's cut the budget. But don't cut my. But can I get some money over here for my town? It's interesting how that sometimes
Yeah.
correlates. But, how about you, Andy?
Well, like I said, I'm 60 now, so very much enjoying my job as
Yeah.
a judge and continue to like doing the juvenile work. So we'll stick with
Keep
that.
on keeping on. Yeah,
Keep on
that's great.
keeping on.
And with the 6-year-old, he's gonna have to work till he's about 80.
Yeah. Already figured that out. Mandatory retirement will be when he's 17.
There's an awful lot of perks to being a father that had children later in life.
I think so. I would not have been a good
Yeah.
25-year-old dad. So
It's
I disagree with that. You would have been a good dad, but
well, I always appreciate it when you guys come to Reunion Fest. The Hosmer family's always there, it seems like, and we appreciate that and the support that you've always given us. I have to say this, Greg, because it's so important to me in my life at the time when I was dealing with some things in Jeff City that weren't pleasant. You were a true friend to reach out and make me feel like I was trying to do the right thing, and I appreciated that. I'll always remember that. That's what friendships are about, and you and Kent Hyde both. Kent, another classmate that graduated in '77, another attorney in Springfield. You guys were extremely good friends during that period. I'll never forget it.
when you know somebody, you know they're always doing the right thing. It's easy to do.
Means a lot.
Well, also, I'd like to say
Yeah.
thank you for what you've done for with this building, this community center. 'Cause I think
yeah,
I hadn't really taken the full tour.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's been a labor of love. It's my wife. We could have never done it without her heavily involved in this campus, and has been for quite some time. Even when the school foundation took the campus over several years ago from the public school, I think there was a very strong universal agreement that they didn't want the building to go become a flea market or become a pile of rubble, and so the foundation took it on and then owned it for several years, and then and it was still being utilized. And then they kind of got to a point where, okay, we're a public school foundation. We're in the scholarship and the teacher grant business. We really don't want to own real estate, and I understand that,
Yeah.
the liability and so forth. So the opportunity came along for us to purchase the property, but the condition was that we would continue to keep it operating as a community center. Well, that's a big commitment,
well, but it's so important for the community to have places like this, spaces like this. That it's a really nice way to kind of unify.
It's a
Thank you.
continuation of things that make Marshfield
Yeah,
good.
tradition.
Yeah.
And there's no tax money being utilized other than the city does lease the property from us to run some sports programs out of the gym, which we appreciate. It helps us pay the bills. But we're doing it and through user fees, and we've been able to receive a grant or two, not large ones, but anything we can do to help keep it in use by the community. We're leasing space to help pay the bills. The donut shop's been a great addition. We've got the Rutgers on Arcade here. We've got some boutiques up on the third floor, little shops. If you want to say have a bookkeeping service, we've got a room that we can lease you for all-inclusive utilities. We've got fiber internet, show me fiber internet, so it's state of the art. All that available for a one fee amount that's very, very economical. So it works.
There couldn't be better people running it than you know.
Well,
Sure, so
I
it
appreciate
takes a community to do that, but I think somebody that's steeped in the community and somebody that's raised by the community is the person to run this.
I appreciate that. We love it, and we'll keep doing it as long as we can, as long as we can keep the bills paid. Reunion Fest is a great event, and it fits in really well, and hopefully we can sell some tickets tonight and pay the bills. The weather's looking pretty good out there right
It
now.
is.
I hope
I
it
think it looks
holds
nice.
out. We've got the gym as an option, and that's what we'll do if it doesn't. If the rain still decide to come, but I think it's looking pretty good right now. We'll just have to see. I don't know. There may be something coming in later on, so we'll see. But thank you guys very much. Tell your mom hi.
We will.
We would love to have her on the show, but I understand probably a little
It
difficult.
probably been much more interesting.
Well,
There have been some tangents.
There have been some stories you probably never heard.
well, we like stories. That's what it's all about. Folks, thank you all. We will not see you next Saturday. We're going to take a little vacation, family vacation, and the boys and the grandsons and Melanie and I. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks. But thanks for tuning in. We've had some great guests. We've been here exactly 1 year. Actually, 1 year in a day or two. So it's been fun. We'll keep doing it. And if any of you have some interesting folks or stories you want to share, why, give me a shout. If not, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you and have a good evening.